The war room of the Galactic Council stood in silence. Around the curved table sat representatives from 40 different worlds, and every single one of them looked afraid. On the massive screen before them, red markers showed the advance of the Kurthak swarm across their territory. 12 worlds had fallen in the last 6 months. Billions were dead. Ambassador Velthar of the Centauri Collective pressed a button on his console. The display changed to show their latest battle reports. The numbers were devastating. 3 more fleets destroyed, 2 colony worlds evacuated just hours before the swarm arrived. Their military forces were being ground down battle after battle. "We cannot continue this way," said High Commander Zextol, his 4 eyes blinking in distress. "The swarm does not fear death. They do not negotiate. They simply consume everything in their path." The Council had fought wars before, but those were civilized affairs. Disputes over territory or resources, resolved through limited engagements and diplomatic pressure. The Kurthak were different. They were a hive mind, billions of creatures acting as one. They felt no pain, showed no mercy, and never retreated. Every battle was a fight to complete annihilation. Velthar stood up slowly. His blue skin looked pale under the chamber lights. "We have one option left, an option we previously rejected as too dangerous." The chamber filled with worried murmurs. Everyone knew what he meant. "You speak of the humans," said Representative Kormal, her tentacles curling in distaste. "The violent primitives from Sol 3, that backwards world we quarantined?" "Yes," Velthar replied. "I have reviewed their historical records. They are technologically inferior, yes. They have not even achieved faster than light travel. But they have one quality we desperately need." He pulled up Earth's history on the screen. The council members watched in growing horror. Thousands of years of warfare. Cities burned, empires risen and fallen, weapons of terrifying creativity. Wars fought over land, resources, religion, and ideology. The humans had been fighting each other since they climbed down from the trees. "This is barbarism," someone whispered. "This is survival," Velthar countered. "They know how to fight enemies who do not surrender. They understand total war. We do not." The debate lasted for hours. Many council members argued that bringing humans into the conflict would be like unleashing one monster to fight another. But the red markers on the map kept spreading. Soon the swarm would reach the core worlds. They were running out of time. Finally, the vote was called. By a narrow margin, the council agreed. They would contact Earth. Velthar's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. His sensors immediately detected the human defense platforms orbiting their homeworld, primitive railguns and missile batteries, laughably outdated by council standards. But there were hundreds of them. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. "Broadcast standard greeting," Velthar ordered. His communication officer worked the controls. "Channel open, Ambassador." "People of Earth," Velthar began. "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Galactic Council. We come in peace, but we bring grave news. A threat approaches that will consume your world unless we stand together." The response came quickly. Too quickly. They had been ready for contact. "This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Defense Coalition. We've been tracking your vessel since you entered our system." "State your business." Velthar felt a chill. The humans had detected his ship. His stealth systems were generations ahead of their technology. But he pushed the concern aside. "Admiral, the galaxy faces extinction. An enemy called the Kurthak swarm is destroying everything in its path. We need allies who understand warfare. Your history suggests you have that experience." There was a long pause. "You want us to fight your war," Webb replied. His voice carried no emotion. "I want you to fight for your own survival. The swarm will reach Earth eventually. Join us now, and we might stop them before that happens." Another silence. Then Webb spoke again. "Come to Geneva. We'll talk face to face." The meeting took place in an underground bunker. Velthar found himself sitting across from representatives of Earth's various nations. They argued among themselves in different languages, but translation software helped him follow the conversation. They were divided, suspicious, and aggressive, just like their history suggested. But one voice cut through the chaos. General Sarah Chen, a scarred veteran of something called the Martian Rebellion, stood and addressed the room. "We can argue all day about whether to trust these aliens," she said. "But the fact is they found us. That means others will too. If this swarm is as bad as they say, it's coming here whether we like it or not. Better to fight it out there than in our own backyard." The arguments continued, but Chen's logic was sound. Within 3 days, Earth's leaders reached a decision. They would send an expeditionary force, 10,000 Marines, 5 warships, and General Chen in command. Velthar watched the human fleet prepare to leave Earth orbit. Their ships were ugly, utilitarian things. Thick armor plating instead of energy shields, chemical rockets instead of gravity drives. They looked like exactly what they were. Weapons built by a species that expected to get hit. "Do you really think they can help?" asked his assistant. Velthar watched the humans load supplies into their vessels. Soldiers marched in formation, their faces hard and ready. He thought about their history, all those wars, all that death. "I think they are our last hope," he replied, "and I think the swarm has no idea what is coming." The human fleet engaged their primitive engines and began the long journey to the war zone. Behind them, Earth continued to spin in the darkness, unaware that its children were heading off to fight for the survival of species they had never met. In the council war room, the red markers continued their advance. Time was running out. The human fleet arrived at Kiro 7 3 weeks later. General Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UDC Valiant, watching the massive council armada through the view screen. Hundreds of elegant ships floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields. They made her 5 crude warships look like toys. "They certainly know how to put on a show," muttered Commander Jackson, her second in command. Chen said nothing. She had read the battle reports during the journey. The council had lost every major engagement with the swarm for the past year. All their pretty ships and advanced technology had not stopped the enemy advance. There was a reason they had called for help from a species they considered primitive. "Incoming transmission," said the communications officer. The view screen flickered, and Admiral Zextal appeared. His 4 eyes studied Chen with barely concealed disdain. "General Chen, your fleet will take up position in Sector 7. Rear guard duty. Stay out of the way and try not to get killed." Chen felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice level. "Understood, Admiral. We'll do our best." The transmission ended. Jackson swore quietly. "Rear guard? They brought us halfway across the galaxy to babysit empty space. They don't trust us," Chen replied. "They think we're going to panic and run at the first sign of trouble. Let them think that. We'll show them what humans can do when the time comes." The time came 2 days later. The swarm arrived without warning. One moment, the space around Kiro 7 was empty. The next, it was filled with bioships, massive organic vessels that looked like they had been grown rather than built. They pulsed with sickly yellow light and moved with disturbing coordination. "All ships, defensive formation beta," Admiral Zextal broadcast. "Long-range bombardment. Do not let them close to weapons range." The council fleet opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced across the void, striking the swarm vessels. Several exploded, but dozens more pushed forward. The elegant council strategy was working exactly as planned. Except the swarm kept coming. For every bioship destroyed, 2 more appeared. They absorbed losses that would have broken any rational species and pressed their attack. Within an hour, the council fleet was falling back. "Sector 7, maintain your positions," Zextal ordered, his voice strained. "Do not engage." Chen watched her tactical display. The council ships were retreating in good order, but the swarm was pushing them back toward the planet. In another hour, they would be forced to abandon Kiro 7. Millions would die. She looked at her officers. They looked back, waiting. They all knew what she was thinking. "Calculate an intercept course," Chen ordered. "Straight into the center of their formation." "General, the Admiral ordered us to hold position," the tactical officer said. "The Admiral is about to lose this battle," Chen replied. "Helm, execute on my mark," Jackson grinned. "About damn time." The 5 human ships broke formation. Their primitive engines burned at maximum thrust, carrying them directly toward the swarm's center. On the council flagship, alarms blared. "The humans are breaking ranks," someone shouted. "They're attacking." Zextal watched in horror as the human vessels plunged into the enemy formation. "Fools, they're committing suicide. Their weapons cannot penetrate swarm armor at that range." But the humans were not using their weapons. Not yet. Chen's ship slammed into a bioship at full speed. The impact nearly threw her crew from their stations, but the Valiant's thick armor held. The bioship split apart, spilling organic matter into space. "All ships ramming speed," Chen ordered. "Show these things what happens when you fight humans." The other 4 ships followed her lead, crashing into swarm vessels with devastating force. It was brutal, ugly, and completely unexpected. The swarm hesitated, its hive mind trying to process this new tactic. That moment of confusion was all Chen needed. Marines, launch boarding parties, demolition teams, plant your charges. Everyone else, fire everything we have. Thousands of armored Marines erupted from the human ships, using jetpacks to cross the void between vessels. They carried explosives, rifles, and blades. The swarm creatures met them in the vacuum of space, and the real fighting began. Private First Class Rodriguez found himself face to face with a Kurthak warrior. The thing was massive, all claws and mandibles designed for killing. It lunged at him. Rodriguez shot it 3 times in the head, watched it keep coming, and then drove his combat knife into what he hoped was its brain. The creature thrashed and died. He moved on to the next one. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Humans fought with a ferocity that shocked the Council observers. When their ammunition ran out, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used their helmets, their boots, their bare hands. They fought in corridors too narrow for proper tactics, in zero gravity, in darkness when the lights failed. Sergeant Maria Torres held a choke point for 20 minutes against wave after wave of swarm warriors. When her rifle jammed, she detonated grenades at point-blank range. When her grenades ran out, she picked up a Kurthak claw weapon and used that. She died when the corridor finally collapsed. But her sacrifice let her squad plant charges that destroyed an entire bioship from the inside. Commander Jackson's ship, the Defiant, took catastrophic damage. Hull breaches on every deck. Life support failing. The engineering section was exposed to space. He could abandon ship and let his crew live, or he could do something else. All hands, this is the commander, he broadcast. It's been an honor. Helms set collision course with that mothership. Engineering, overload the reactor. Let's take these bastards with us. The Defiant accelerated one last time. The swarm fired everything at it, tearing the ship apart piece by piece. But momentum carried the wreckage forward. When the reactor detonated, it created a miniature sun that consumed the Defiant, the mothership, and 17 swarm vessels in a sphere of nuclear fire. Chen watched from the Valiant's bridge as the light faded. Mark the Defiant's position. We'll come back for them. General, the swarm is withdrawing, her tactical officer reported, disbelief in his voice. It was true. The bioships were pulling back, retreating into faster-than-light travel. The Kurthak swarm, which had never retreated in its entire existence, was running away. The Council fleet was silent for a long moment. Then Admiral Zexitol's voice came over the channel, quiet and shaken. What are you people? Chen looked at the debris field where 4 of her 5 ships had died. Thousands of her people were gone, but they had won. We're humans, she replied, and we don't know how to quit. News of the human victory at Kiro 7 spread through Council space like wildfire. Ambassador Velthar watched the reaction from his office on the Council station. Some species celebrated, others grew very quiet. General Chen had been right about one thing. The humans had shown the galaxy what they could do. Now the galaxy was not sure if it should be grateful or terrified. The humans won their next battle at Telos Station, then another at the Orion Gate, then a 4th at New Centauri. Every time the pattern was the same. The Council fleets would engage using their standard tactics. The swarm would push forward, absorbing losses. Then the humans would do something crazy, violent, and effective. They would ram ships, board enemy vessels, fight in conditions that would kill most species. And somehow they would win. But the cost was staggering. Human casualties ran at 70% in every engagement. They were bleeding themselves dry to save worlds they had never heard of 6 months ago. Velthar received a message from Earth. More ships were on the way. More soldiers. The humans were sending everything they had. He felt a mixture of relief and shame. Relief that help was coming. Shame that his people needed it so badly. The emergency council session was chaotic from the start. Representative Kormal stood at her podium, her tentacles waving in agitation. We must discuss the human problem, she declared. Problem? Velthar stood up. They are winning battles we had given up as lost. They are dying to save our worlds. How's that a problem? Because they are not like us, Kormal replied. Have you watched the recordings? They paint symbols on their armor. They sing songs about death. They volunteer for missions with 0 survival probability. It is unnatural. A representative from the Pelton Confederacy stood next. His voice was quiet but firm. I have reviewed human military doctrine. They have concepts we do not. Suicide attacks, last stands, Fighting retreats where the rear guard stays behind to die so others can escape. They embrace death in ways that remind me of the swarm itself. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Velthar felt his frustration growing. They are nothing like the swarm. The swarm kills because it is all they know. Humans die to protect others. There is a difference. Is there? Cormal challenged.
What happens when this war ends?
What do we do with millions of trained killers who have tasted battle? What happens when these warriors have no enemy left to fight? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. High Commander Zextol entered the chamber. He had fought alongside the humans at 3 battles now. His presence commanded immediate silence. I have seen them fight, he said. I have watched them do things I thought impossible. Yes, they frighten me. But I will tell you something else. They frighten the swarm even more. And right now, that is what we need. The debate continued for hours. Finally, they took a vote on whether to request full military support from Earth. The chamber divided almost evenly, but in the end survival won over fear. The motion passed. Velthar was chosen to deliver the message to Earth personally. He made the long journey to Sol 3, rehearsing what he would say. How do you ask an entire species to bleed for you? How do you promise them a place in galactic society when half the council feared them? He arrived to find Earth already mobilizing. Every nation on the planet was contributing. Ships were being built in orbital yards around Earth, Mars, and Jupiter's moons. Civilian transports were being converted into troop carriers. Mining vessels were being fitted with weapons. General Chen met him at the Geneva complex. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes. Fresh scars on her hands. Ambassador, she greeted him. I assume the council voted yes. How did you know? Because you're here in person instead of sending a message. She gestured for him to follow her. Come on. There's something you should see. She led him to an observation deck overlooking the preparation zones. Thousands of soldiers were drilling, training, preparing for deployment. But what struck Velthar was their diversity. Humans of every color and build. Young and old. Men and women. All of them volunteering to fight. Do they understand what they're going into? Velthar asked quietly. We've lost entire fleets. The survival rate is horrific. They know, Chen replied. Every one of them knows. We don't lie to our soldiers, Ambassador. We tell them the truth. And they go anyway, but why? These are not their worlds. These are not their people. Chen was quiet for a moment, watching her troops. You ever hear of the Battle of Thermopylae? Happened on Earth about 2,000 years ago. 300 Spartan warriors held a mountain pass against an army of maybe 100,000. They knew they would die. They went anyway. You know what their king said when the enemy told them to surrender their weapons? He said, come and take them. She turned to face Velthar. We're a warrior species, Ambassador. That's what scares your council. But we're not warriors because we love death. We're warriors because sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to stand between it and the monsters, even if standing there kills you. Velthar felt something twist in his chest. Shame, maybe. Or respect. The council fears what will happen when the war ends. When you have no more monsters to fight. Then they don't understand us at all, Chen replied. Fighting is what we do when we have to. It's not who we are. When this is over, we'll go back to building things. Creating things, exploring. That's what we really want. We just needed you to help us get there. The human fleet that assembled over the next month was staggering. Not just military vessels, but civilian ships converted for war. Colony transports carrying troops. Mining ships equipped with improvised weapons. A generation ship called Hope's Gambit that was supposed to carry settlers to distant stars, now filled with Marines instead. Velthar attended the departure ceremony. General Chen, now promoted to Supreme Commander of Coalition Forces, stood before her assembled troops. Millions of humans ready to fight for species they had never met. I won't lie to you, Chen said, her voice broadcast across every ship. A lot of us are not coming home. The swarm is gathering its full strength for one final push. If we fail, they'll sweep through council space and eventually reach Earth. Everything we love will burn. She paused, looking out at the endless ranks of soldiers. But we're not going to fail, because that's not what humans do. We've been fighting since we climbed down from the trees. We've fought each other, fought nature, fought every obstacle the universe threw at us. And we're still here, still standing, still hoping for something better. So let's go show these bugs what happens when they threaten our future. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do. And when we come home, we're going to build a future worth all this sacrifice. together. The fleet departed Earth to the sound of a million voices cheering. Velthar watched them go, feeling something he had not felt in months. Hope. But as the human ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, he wondered if Chen was right. Would the galaxy accept these fierce warriors as partners? Or would fear win in the end? The answer, he knew, would be written in blood and fire at the coming battle. The nexus point was a region of space where 3 major star lanes converged. Control it, and you controlled access to the Council's core worlds. Lose it, and the swarm would have a clear path to billions of civilians. High Commander Zextal studied the tactical display on the Council flagship. Intelligence reports showed the swarm gathering its full strength. Every bioship from every conquered system, all converging on this single point. It was the largest fleet anyone had ever seen. They are committing everything, his tactical officer reported. Estimates put their numbers at over 50,000 vessels. Zextal felt his heart sink. The Council had maybe 8,000 ships. Even with the human reinforcements, they were outnumbered 6-1. The mathematics were brutally simple. They were going to lose. The human fleet arrived 3 days before the swarm. Supreme Commander Sarah Chen's flagship, the UDC Indomitable, took up position at the center of the human formation. Zextal opened a communication channel. Commander Chen, our analysis suggests this battle is not winnable. We should evacuate the core worlds while we still can. Chen's image appeared on his screen. She looked calm, almost relaxed. Admiral, with respect, your analysis is based on fighting the way the Council always fights. We're going to try something different. Different how? The swarm thinks like a predator. They see prey, they attack, they consume. They've never met prey that bites back harder than they bite. Time to change that. Chen broadcasted on all channels, Council and human alike. All ships, listen up. The swarm is coming to eat us. Our job is simple. We're going to make them choke on us. No retreats. No surrenders. We hold this line or we die trying. Anyone got a problem with that? Silence. Then one by one, ship captains began responding. Council species who had spent months fighting alongside humans. They had learned from them, been changed by them. The Centauri 3rd Fleet stands with humanity. Pelton Battle Group accepting orders. Commander. New Kiros Defense Wing ready to engage. Even Zextal found himself responding. Council flagship standing by. We will follow your lead, Commander Chen. The swarm arrived like a wall of organic death. Bioships filled the space between stars, their collective intelligence focused on one goal: consume, destroy, spread. Chen watched them approach on her tactical display. Thousands of blips, each one representing a ship designed for killing. Any sane military commander would have ordered a retreat. But Chen had stopped being sane the moment she watched 4,000 of her people die at Kairos 7th. All ships engage at will, she ordered. And remember, they want to eat us. Let's give them indigestion. The human fleet surged forward, not the cautious, calculated advance of Council doctrine. This was a headlong charge, engines at maximum burn, weapons firing continuously. They crashed into the swarm formation like a hammer. The UDC Indomitable rammed a bioship 3 times its size, tearing it apart with the reinforced prow. Chen barely kept her footing as the impact shook the vessel. Marine teams 1 through 10 board that ship. Plant charges and get out. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships fought with suicidal aggression, closing to ranges where the swarm's superior numbers meant nothing. In the chaos, skill mattered less than will, and no one had more will than humans who knew they were fighting for their species' survival. Private Jackson Chen, no relation to the commander, found himself inside a swarm bioship with his squad. The corridors were made of living tissue that pulsed and bled when cut. Kurthak warriors rushed at them from every direction. Keep moving, his sergeant yelled. Plant the charges and get to the extraction point. Jackson fired his rifle on full automatic, watching swarm creatures fall and keep coming. His ammunition counter hit 0. He dropped the rifle and pulled his sidearm. When that ran dry, he used his combat knife. When a warrior knocked the knife away, he used his helmet as a club. They made it to the ship's core, a massive chamber that pulsed like a heart. The demolitions expert planted shaped charges while the rest of the squad held the entrance. 3 minutes later, they were running back toward their shuttle, the timer counting down. They made it with 15 seconds to spare. The bioship exploded behind them and Jackson allowed himself to breathe. They had lost 4 of their 12-person squad. 66% casualties, better than usual. Not every mission went so well. The destroyer UDC Defiant, named after the vessel lost at Kairos 7, took a direct hit from a swarm bioweapon. The blast tore through the engineering section, killing everyone there instantly. Captain Rodriguez watched his ship dying around him. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered. "This is not a drill. Get to the escape pods now." His crew evacuated in good order. Rodriguez stayed at his station, manually targeting the weapons while his ship fell apart. He managed to destroy 3 more swarm vessels before the hull finally breached. His last transmission was simple. "Earth endures. The battle raged for 18 hours. Humans died by the thousands. Ships exploded. Boarding parties were wiped out. Entire squadrons vanished in nuclear fire. But they kept fighting. And slowly, impossibly, they started to win. The swarm had never faced an enemy like this. Species that fought with the same relentless aggression as itself. Creatures that would ram ships, detonate nuclear weapons at point-blank range, fight hand-to-claw in zero gravity. The hive mind, which had conquered dozens of species, began to experience something new. Uncertainty. Chen saw it in the tactical display. The swarm's formations were becoming disorganized. Bioships were responding slower to threats. The perfect coordination that made them so deadly was breaking down. "They're confused," her tactical officer reported. "The hive mind cannot process what we're doing." "Good," Chen replied. "Let's confuse them more. All ships, focus fire on their command nodes. Take out their leaders and the rest will scatter." The combined Human Council fleet concentrated on the largest bioships, the ones that coordinated swarm movements. It was brutal work. For every command ship destroyed, dozens of smaller vessels had to be fought through, but humans specialized in brutal work. Commander Sarah Okafor led her squadron in a suicide run against a swarm command ship. Anti-ship fire tore her wing to pieces. She was the only one who made it through, her fighter badly damaged and losing atmosphere. She could eject, save herself, live to fight another day. Instead, she armed every missile her fighter carried and flew straight into the command ship's core. The explosion destroyed the ship and 72 support vessels with it. As the 20-hour mark approached, something incredible happened. The swarm broke. Not a tactical retreat, not a regrouping. The hive mind simply stopped functioning. Individual bioships began fleeing in random directions, their coordination completely gone. For the first time in its existence, the Kurthak swarm had encountered something it could not consume. Something that fought harder, sacrificed more, and refused to be prey. Chen watched the enemy fleet scatter on her display. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. They had won. Against impossible odds, against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known, humanity and its allies had won. But the cost was devastating. 70% of the human fleet was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Over 1 million dead, names and faces that Chen would remember for the rest of her life. "Commander, the Council flagship is hailing us," her communication officer said. Admiral Zextal appeared on screen. His 4 eyes were wide with something that looked like awe. "Commander Chen, I do not understand your species, but I am grateful you exist. On behalf of the Galactic Council, thank you." Chen felt tears on her face. She did not wipe them away. "Admiral, let's go home. All of us, the war is over." 3 months after the Battle of Nexus Point, the Galactic Council held a ceremony unlike any in its history. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from every member species. But today the focus was on one group, the humans. General Sarah Chen stood at attention, her dress uniform crisp and clean. But nothing could hide the scars she carried. Burns on her hands from a hull breach, a limp from shrapnel that had torn through her leg. The tired look in her eyes of someone who had sent too many people to their deaths. Behind her stood the survivors of the human expeditionary force. Barely 3,000 of the original 10,000 who had first answered the Council's call. They were the lucky ones, the ones who had lived through hell and made it home. Ambassador Velthar stood at the podium, his blue skin somehow looking older than it had a year ago. "Today we honor those who answered our call in our darkest hour. Humanity came to us as strangers. They became our saviors. Every human who fought in this war receives the Star of Unity, our highest honor." One by one, human soldiers approached to receive their medals. Many limped. Some were missing limbs. All carried the weight of what they had seen and done. When it was Chen's turn, Velthar pinned the medal to her chest and then did something unprecedented. He bowed. A council ambassador bowing to anyone was rare. Bowing to a human was unthinkable. "Thank you," he whispered. "For everything." Chen managed a smile. "You're welcome, Ambassador. Now comes the hard part." The hard part? Figuring out what comes next. The ceremony concluded with the formal acceptance of Earth into the Galactic Council. Humanity was no longer a quarantined species. They had earned their place among the stars with blood and sacrifice. But as the celebrating crowds dispersed, the real work began. Chen met with Velthar in a private conference room later that evening. The ambassador poured her something that looked like tea but tasted like flowers. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "The council is afraid of us," Chen said finally. "I can see it in how they look at my soldiers. Like we're dangerous animals they're not sure they can control." Velthar did not deny it. "You showed us a type of warfare we had never imagined. You fought with a ferocity that terrified even your allies. Yes, many council members fear what humanity might do now that the war is over." "We're going home," Chen replied. "Back to Earth, Mars, the colonies. We're going to rebuild, bury our dead, try to figure out how to live in peace after all this violence." "Can you?" Velthar asked. "Can a warrior species learn to live without war?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. "You know what the hardest part of being a soldier is? It's not the fighting. It's not the dying. It's coming home and trying to explain to people who weren't there what it was like, trying to fit back into a world that kept turning while you were gone." She looked at her scarred hands. "We're a warrior species, yes. We're good at fighting because we've had to be, but that's not all we are. We're also poets, artists, scientists, dreamers. We just needed a reason to be those things instead of soldiers. And now you have that reason? Now we have you." Chen met his eyes. "The council gave us something we never had before. A place in something bigger than ourselves. Before we only fought each other. Now we know there's a whole galaxy out there. Things to explore. Species to meet. Wonders we can't even imagine." She leaned forward. "You asked if we can learn to live without war. The real question is, will you help us? Because we can't do it alone. We need you to see us as more than weapons. We need you to help us become something better." Velthar felt something loosen in his chest. "You are right. We summoned you as warriors. We must now help you become something more." The door opened and Admiral Zextol entered. His 4 eyes studied them both. "Am I interrupting?" "No," Chen stood. "Actually, your timing is perfect. I have a proposal for the council." Over the next hour, Chen outlined her vision for humanity's future in the galaxy. Human ships would join council exploration missions. Human scientists would work alongside alien researchers. Human engineers would help rebuild worlds damaged by the swarm. And yes, human soldiers would train council military forces, teaching them the lessons learned at such terrible cost. But no more wars, Chen insisted. Humanity has bled enough. We'll help defend against threats, but we're done with conquest. Done with empire building. We just want to be part of the community. Zextol was silent for a moment. Your casualties were catastrophic. Over 1 million dead. Entire ships lost with all hands. How does Earth feel about the price they paid? Chen pulled up an image on her tablet. It showed a monument being built on Earth, a massive wall of names. Every human who had died in the war would be listed there. This is going up in Geneva. But there are others being built in Beijing, New York, Moscow, Lagos, everywhere. We're remembering them. Every single one. She looked at both aliens. Was it worth it? That's what you're really asking. Did 1 million human lives buy something valuable? Or did we just throw them away? And what is your answer? Zextol asked. My answer is that those people chose to go. They knew the risks. They went anyway because they believed in something bigger than themselves. They believed that the galaxy was worth saving. That other species deserved to live. That humanity could be more than just another violent species fighting over scraps. Chen's voice grew stronger. So yes, it was worth it. Not because we wanted to fight, but because we wanted to prove we could be trusted. We wanted to show that humans are capable of sacrifice for others. We wanted to earn our place out here among the stars. Velthar felt his eyes growing wet. In his culture, tears were a sign of deep respect. You have earned it, General. More than earned it. The next day, the council voted unanimously to accept Chen's proposal. Humanity would be integrated into galactic society, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equal partners. The human fleet began its journey home a week later. Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching Council space fade behind them. So many ships lost, so many friends gone, but they had accomplished something no one thought possible. "Commander, incoming transmission from Earth," her communication officer reported. The screen showed Earth, that beautiful blue marble hanging in space. "Home. This is Earth Central Command. Welcome home, Commander Chen. Welcome home, all of you. The whole planet is waiting to thank you." Chen felt tears on her face again. She was tired of crying, tired of war, tired of death. She wanted to go home, see her family, sleep in her own bed. She wanted to remember how to be something other than a soldier. "Earth Central, this is Commander Chen. We're coming home, and we're never leaving again." As the Indomitable accelerated toward Earth, Chen thought about the future. There would be challenges ahead. Humanity would have to learn how to coexist with dozens of alien species. They would have to earn trust, build relationships, prove that they were more than just warriors. But for the first time in human history, they would do it together with the rest of the galaxy. Not as conquerors, not as victims. As equals, the war was over. The real work was just beginning. On the Council station, Velthar watched the human ships depart. He thought about everything that had happened. The desperate summons, the brutal battles, the terrible losses, and yes, the fear that many still felt toward these fierce warriors. But he also remembered Chen's words. They wanted to be more than soldiers. They needed help to become something better. "Ambassador," his assistant approached. "The Council is asking for recommendations on human integration protocols." Velthar smiled. "Tell them I recommend we treat the humans exactly as they treated us. With patience, with respect, and with the understanding that sometimes the most fearsome warriors make the best friends." He looked out at the stars, imagining the future, a galaxy where humans explored ancient ruins alongside Centauri archaeologists, where human engineers built stations with Pelton architects, where human children learned in schools with alien classmates. It would not be easy. There would be misunderstandings, conflicts, growing pains, but they would face those challenges together. The humans had saved the galaxy. Now it was the galaxy's turn to save them from themselves. And Velthar believed with all his hearts that they would succeed.